Now, the great Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville, member of the Armed Services Committee, he knows a thing or two about that. Senator Tuberville, thank you, sir. So you probably heard Peter Doocy. Maybe you heard part of my riff. I'm hearing insane things out there, Senator Tuberville, utterly insane things, as though some of your colleagues in the Senate, not necessarily your side of the aisle, by the by, of course not, but, whose side are these people on? And when they talk about humanity and civilization and casualties, I mean, whatever happened to October 7th? Senator Tuberville, I'm hot under the collar. This stuff's got to stop. This speculation's got to stop. It's all a bunch of garbage. Let Israel be Israel. That's what I say.
Exactly, Larry. It's typical. The Democrats are trying to ride the fence. They're trying to play both sides. They care nothing about the American people or the people of Israel or the people of Palestine. They care about votes. They care about power. Don't do anything to get in their way to take away votes from them. And you're exactly right. What happened to the American hostages? Did Joe Biden ever mention that? Does anybody ever mention that? Kirby? It's embarrassing. We have people over there that we need to be involved with in terms of getting them out. But, it's typical of how this place is run. When you've got Bernie Sanders, Chris Murphy, and Chuck Schumer trying to tell people how to run a war, boy, we're really in trouble.
Yes, we are. That's a good point, too, right there. That's a very good point. I do not understand. When a foreign country takes an American hostage, or 5 Americans, or 10 Americans, or whatever the number, that is an act of war. And we are not behaving, this administration, the State Department, the Defense Department, and so forth, National Security Council, the White House, not acting like it's an act of war, Senator Tuberville. I don't understand why they are not trying to put the fear of God, not just into Hamas, but into the puppet master and the paymaster, whose name is Iran, still has gone essentially scot-free with a couple of pinpricks, despite the fact that they've orchestrated 70-some-odd attacks on U.S. military assets. You're on the Armed Services Committee, Senator. What the hell's going on there?
Well, you're exactly right. Again, as I said, they're trying to walk the fence and play both sides. Joe Biden does not want a conflict with anybody. He's actually pushing money to Iran, who's attacking our military bases. It doesn't make any sense. We got a huge problem with communication with what's going on. Again, we voted to give Israel money the other night here on the Senate floor before we left for Thanksgiving. Every Democrat voted against it. Every Democrat. We wanted to give them, $12–14 billion, but they did not want to give up their money for our new IRS agents that was in the Inflation Reduction Act. But again, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. It's becoming a problem for the Democrats trying to play both sides. They can't do it. Sooner or later, they're going to have to take a side. I know which side they're going to take. You do too. We'll wait to let them show their hand in the very near future.
Senator, let me play very briefly counter-terrorist special ops expert, Aaron Cohn. You may have seen him on some of these. We have him on our show. FNC has him on. Let me play what he said last night about Hamas and Joe Biden's mind. Take a listen to this.
This one's going to sting the White House a little bit. And you know me, I don't get political, but here's where I'm at. President Biden right now is being manipulated through psychological warfare by Hamas.
Being manipulated by psychological warfare by Hamas. Hamas keeps dribbling out prisoners, Senator Tuberville. That extends the ceasefire. That stops Israel's momentum to annihilate them and win this war convincingly. I mean, who is Mr. Biden listening to?
Well, he's listening to both sides. And again, they want a truce. Joe Biden wants a truce. He does not want to continue to do what the Israelis are doing. They're trying to get their people back, and they're also trying to get our people back, by the way. Joe Biden's not helping. It's just a matter of consequences of what Joe Biden really wants to do here. He's afraid it's going to cost him some power. It's going to cost him an election. Joe Biden needs to make a decision of which side he's on. We all wonder, with what's going on in our country, whose side he's on, but he needs to make a decision on which side he's on with Palestine or the Israelis.
I think he'd be better served if he just took himself out of the presidential race and therefore was able to be a commander-in-chief and help our great ally Israel unequivocally. Quit playing politics. Step out of the race.
I agree with you. You know, the money that we're spending in this country just on the border, $500 billion, Larry. President Trump wanted $20 billion to build a wall. We spent $500 billion in the last 3 years on immigration in this country. What a disaster. The American people deserve better, and I don't know whether we can overcome what's going on at the border. I don't know whether we can overcome what he's done to our foreign relations all over the world. It is a complete disaster. He's not done one thing that has helped the American people or this country. We better wake up and see what's going on. The American people, I think, are starting to understand now, looking at the polling, of who's making these decisions, and all these decisions are going against the American people.
Last one, Senator Tuberville. Appreciate your time, as always, sir. Mitch McConnell got up today and said there's going to have to be a border deal, I presume something to do with policy, in order to tie a bow around Ukrainian and Israel foreign assistance. Chuck Schumer, Majority Leader Schumer, says no, says it's dangerous. Border deals are dangerous. So McConnell is in your camp for a change, and Schumer is not. How's this going to turn out? What's your forecast, Senator Tuberville?
Well, this is the way it should be. The Republicans have what we need now, a skin in the game with what we can do to make a decision here. You know, if we will stick with what we're doing and everybody vote as a Republican for what should happen, make Israel funding separate than Ukraine, also fund the border before we do anything else, stop the immigration. We've got the power to do that now. Finally, we've got, our leaders stepped up and said, we're going to do it this way. We're not going to vote for anything to do with Ukraine or Israel until we get something done at the border. Hopefully we stick with what we're saying and we get something done. Larry, it is a disaster there. We can't continue on the way it's going. With everything that's happened in the world in 200 years, this is the biggest catastrophe that's happened on American soil. The border immigration policies that Joe Biden has really let just flush down the drain, and he's given the keys to the country to other countries that's coming in right and left.
Yeah, they don't really know who's coming in, do they, sir? Anyway,
No.
Senator Tommy Tuberville, as always, sir, thank you for your time. We
Thank you, Larry.
appreciate it. Yes, sir.